We are here with another exciting edition of the Thando Channel Book Club. And today we've got Nomsa Mlambo and Nolizwe Mhlaba with us. And as is our custom, we start every book club with a quote from an African author that inspires. And today's African author is Wangari Maathai. And the quote that I think represents these two women to me and the conversation we're going to have is this: African women in general need to know that it's okay for them to be the way they are, to see the way they are as a strength, and to be liberated from fear and from silence. And so that is our tribute to you ladies and to the conversation we will be having about the fabulous organization and movement called Bhala Writers. Welcome, Nomsa. Welcome, Nolizwe.
Thank you so much, Selina.
So without further ado, let me introduce these two divine ladies to you all. Nomsa Mlambo is a lawyer turned techie, focusing particularly on mobile gaming on the African continent as an avenue for sustainable and efficient payment gateways. She's passionate about storytelling, connecting like-minded people, read women, to one another, and creating platforms and spaces for untold stories to be heard. When she has a moment to breathe, she likes to write dramatic stories and the occasional poem. Welcome, Nomsa. And she is a part of the organization we'll be profiling today called Bhala Writers. And with her is one of her partners, Nolizwe Mhlaba. Nolizwe is an educator, editor, and researcher who finds joy in celebrating African women. So you're in the right place because we celebrate African female authors here. Solving crossword puzzles and analyzing the use of language. Her toxic trait is her inability to let her typos go uncorrected, even in text messages. Thank you, Nolizwe. We are so happy to keep the movement alive of using our words in full and our commas and all the punctuation, even in text. We love it. Thank you. So without further ado, let's get stuck into tonight's conversation. So let's kick it off with Nomsa. What does the word Bhala mean, and why does it matter to this generation of African readers and writers?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having us. It's great to be here. We're so excited to have this conversation and to have somebody interview us. We're always interviewing. So Bhala means right in isiNdebele. And we thought it was important. Why it matters and why we're here with readers and writers is we discovered that there's a disconnect between what Black people are writing and what is considered reputable literature on the continent and in the world. And we wanted to see more people write about Black people writing about Black people. So more stories written by Black people. And writing is a skill that also we think that you should always be working on. And so I think it's important to have a space where that is focused primarily on writing and African writing.
Awesome, amazing. And Nolizwe, how did Bhala come about? What have been the milestones so far, and like how has that kind of embodied the description that Nomsa just gave us?
Great, thanks so much, Selina. Just to echo Nomsa's sentiments, we're so grateful for the opportunity to be here today. So with Bhala, there are three of us actually, and what we have in common is just a love for writing and storytelling. I mean, it's a shared interest, and we've all, whether it's in our professional or personal lives, done a lot of writing. And we're just thinking, what is a skill that could be monetized, right? So a skill that people can use to make money, especially in this environment where we're seeing a lot of people working from home, or we're seeing, the rise of the gig economy. And so we thought writing is an important skill. And we realized that there are people not capitalizing on that skill, not to make everything about making money, but the reality is times can be tough. So it's like, how do we get people to actually develop their writing skill? And how do we investigate ways in which they can make money from that skill? And so, so the two answers are, how do we identify opportunities how do we identify paid writing opportunities? And how do we create spaces where people can improve the quality of their writing? Some of the milestones we've had are just, we've hosted master classes So we've had writers, we've had publishers, we've had illustrators, and these are just convenings where the invited guest shares their journey with a group of aspiring writers or just interested parties. And there's a lot that happens in the writing industry that we don't necessarily know about, right? So, for example, how do I go from producing this manuscript? If I want to self-publish, what would I have to do? So we're really just trying to connect writers to one another. And in addition to that, we want to celebrate writers. So we have a platform that has about 150 members. And each week we have writing sessions. We provide prompts. It's just something to get people building that habit of writing. We also have our social media following, Instagram, shout out to Instagram. We have a lot of followers there, but it's been an opportunity for us to get to know African writers from not just Southern Africa, but across the continent. It's been an opportunity for us to understand who else is in this space, right? Who are prospective collaborators or partners. And so, yeah, I think that I will stop there because there's a lot I could go on and on, but essentially, we want people to write more, to write better, and to make money while doing so.
Very, very. I love the make money part because I think for such a long time, cultural appropriation aside, I think there's always been the idea that writing is a labor of love. It's a passion. You won't make much money writing, and I think that kind of sets up a preconceived notion that sets up people to fail when we're having the monetization conversation, especially in regards to the opportunities that are there right now. So well done to you, ladies, for doing that. So there are three of you who came up with this idea, and how did that come about? I mean, were you guys just having a coffee one day in 2018, 2017, and you're like, I think we should do this? Or like, what was the spark? What was the igniting moment?
This actually happened in 2020. I mean, the timeline, things just happened so quickly. But we had been talking about, we're working from home, we're looking for creative outlets, and then we're saying, okay, but we don't want to just do things for fun. How are we actually trying to make money, as young Black women? Okay, I say young. As Black women, African women, what's something that we can do? And so we just had many conversations where we were trying to align on our interests. And as I said, we kept coming back to writing. We were also seeing some of the published works. And this is, I remember a specific moment was a press release that I saw. It's an official document, and it was coming from from a ministry, from a Southern African country's ministry. I won't name names because, wow. And I experienced secondhand embarrassment because I thought, why? This is a professional document. It's riddled with typos. There are all sorts of big words that are just thrown in there. And it's like, what? How is this happening? And so I thought, I know there are people who are working in the communications office who could benefit from some kind of who could share their expertise or who could benefit from a workshop where it's like, okay, this is how you put together this kind of document. And so we had a number of Zoom conversations, and, it got to a point where it's like, okay, we can keep talking about this thing, or we can just build as we go along. Let's start something and then see where we go from there. So we just decided, we picked a date. Our third partner who is in here, she's very much the action Andy of the group. So we picked a date and we're like, listen, whatever happens, we are launching on this date. So so that's when we started running around. We're like, okay, let's do it. And for people who have experienced Bhala from when we started, you'll see that it has evolved in many ways, just in response to what the community has expressed interest in, and just an awareness of what's out there and where there are gaps. And it's a work in progress, I would say.
Amazing. I mean, so was the connection between the three of you like? You kind of rubbed shoulders in workspaces, or were you girlfriends like from childhood? Like what was the connection before you guys even had the conversation in 2020. And you know what? I'd just like to say congratulations for launching something so vibrant and interesting and so needed during 2020, because the rest of the world was baking and taking photos and putting it on their WhatsApp statuses during the rolling lockdowns, and of course watching Trump. So well done to you ladies for you making that time so fruitful. But were you all friends, or were you university college mates? What was the initial glue that had you all talking in the first place?
I think I'll invite Nomsa to answer that question.
Sure. So, I mean, we go a little bit way back. We have the privilege of all having worked at the same organization, and it's overlapped at different times. And we were friends as well. So we knew we worked well together because we had each worked with the other somehow in a professional capacity outside of the giggles and the "what's up, girl." We knew we could work well together. Nolizwe and I have facilitated things before together. Now worked in a few teams as well, and Melissa and Nolizwe currently work on the same team. They're 9 to 5. So there was the glue that held us together is definitely friendship, because we can laugh about things that would normally make people cry, and knowing that we also work well together professionally. I think we have the same work ethic and having the privilege of working with each other in the professional capacity.
Mm-hmm. So what I love about that is that, again, it's something that just goes against the grain. So you're the three that's saying you can make money from your writing. You're the three creating opportunities and making rain during 2020 when everybody else is languishing. And then you're the three women that are progressively working together and actually showing that women work well together and actually can grow and progress and evolve those work relationships to create and own. So that's really, really awesome. So we've got a comment from Chedza Rodzi, who's joining us from YouTube. And it's the first time we've started with a YouTube comment. So this is really awesome. And she's saying, such queens, excited to be leaning into some wisdom. We are too. And we hope all of our writers who are shyly watching will also share their comments with us tonight. So what motivates your interest in books in particular? And what's your vision for African publishing? What do you want to see more of, especially when we're talking about books?
I can speak to what motivates our interest in books. And I guess books are so unique because they're stories. And storytelling has the power to change minds and perceptions, without a doubt. And then books have this unique thing in allowing stories to go further than they normally would if it was just oral. So they bridge the gaps of borders, they bridge the continental divide. And so they have such a wide reach. And then that coupled with the fact that storytelling gives you the unique ability to put someone in someone else's shoes. I think that's one of the most powerful mediums we have, to be able to put someone in your shoes or put them in someone else's shoes. Because the fact of the matter is, I am not white. I am not a male. There's a lot of things I'm not. But if I read a book where the protagonist is white, is male, suddenly I can start to relate to an experience that I wouldn't typically experience as I am right now. And that's the power that we found in storytelling, and it's the power that we found in books, and what motivates our interest, because it means that we can create more connections and more relatable content coming from the African continent and coming from women, because they've been muted voices for so long. And again, the other thing that I would also say why we're so interested in books is that they give voiceless. They unmute muted voices, and whether that's someone else's pen directly or being able to write about someone's story who can't speak about it. So they really have a unique power, and it keeps us going, because once you see the domino effect of storytelling, it's magic. It's actually magic. And so it really motivates us to keep going. When we read a good story, when someone comes with a good story and people relate to that, it's magical. So we love it.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think I could speak to the publishing, like, you know, the vision that we have for the African publishing sector. I think what we would like to see more of is just a demystification of the process, right? And to show what's possible. We want for people to see writing as a viable career all on its own. You know, we've had so many amazing women come through the Bhala space to share their writing journeys. And, you know, we found that there are many of them who are in these stable careers, but like really intense kinds of jobs. You know, we have people who are lawyers, who are doctors, and that sort of thing. And in addition to that, they're writing, they're creating such incredible things. And so we want to investigate whether there's another path where it's like, okay, if you don't want to have this more traditional career and you want to go straight into writing, it's possible for you, right? So how do we make that happen? And I think with the publishing sector, the more we can see women, I know I speak a lot about women, but let's say the more we see African people writing what they want, right? And not what an audience in the UK or, you know, some other part of the world dictates. I think we will see more people taking up that courage to put their stories on paper and out to the world, disseminating them out. We also want to see variety. We're always laughing about how, you know, you can pick any African country and say, oh, you know, who's a woman author that you know from there. And almost always it will be the one name that comes almost immediately for everybody else. And we're like, no, it shouldn't be a monopoly. We want for there to be just a wide range of household names across Africa. So I should be able to list, which I can do now, you know, where it's like 6, 7 names from Kenya, 6, 7 names from Uganda, from Swaziland, Eswatini, I should say. And so, yeah, so we want to demystify the process. We want to encourage people to write the stories that they want to tell and not prescribed narratives. And to have more of those voices, more of those stories being disseminated across the continent.
Awesome. I totally agree with that 100%. We've got Linda Mvisi from Facebook. So glad, capital GLAD. Capitals mean something to us because we're all writers here. So we feel the feelings in that. Glad we receive them and we send them back to you. So glad I stumbled across your channel 2 months ago while searching for book clubs. Yay! Thank you very much. Please keep watching. We've got Wanjira Mutoni listening, watching from Nairobi. Interesting. We love you, Wanjira. Thank you so much. And then we've got Fungai Anthony Socks, amazing initiative, clean writing. Thank you so much, Fungai. So those are the comments coming through from Facebook. So whilst we're on the topic of books, publishing, and women, let me know, ladies, who are your favorite African female authors and why?
That's a really tough one for us because all we read are African female authors. But we agreed we would give you maybe 2 each and not go above board. Not put a muzzle on our noses or on our mouths or anything. But but I will go with currently I'm reading Petina Gapa. She's a Zimbabwean female author, and I just stumbled, well, I knew of her, but I stumbled across her book recently, and she's described as a master storyteller. And I can just say I agree. She has such a command of the English language and has an ability to communicate experiences and pain in a way that's palatable, that's relatable, in a way that makes a Zimbabwean feel seen and heard. So I appreciated that because I'm Zimbabwean, and I appreciated for once reading reading cities, locations, and spaces that were my own, and seeing them communicated well. It doesn't always have to be written whenever it's about us. So I love that. And then the second author that I will say is probably Peace Adzomedi. She's Ghanaian.
Wow.
And my goodness, I love a good dramatic story. And I know everyone knows, okay, Black people about drama. That may or may not be true, whatever. My point is, she does drama well. I think for me, I really appreciate someone who's able to tell a story and have you eating out of the palm of their hand from cover to cover. And also did so by showing small little snippets of the character's trajectory, but also small snippets of the past. So she does this really cool thing of weaving in the past and the present. So you don't really have a full picture of how the protagonist got to where they are until you're at the end and you're suddenly like, wait, what? And also I couldn't figure out who the villain was. So any book that makes me think through who is the villain here, and that makes me think about like, but what is the story? What is this person's story really, and how did we get here? Fantastic story writing. So those are my two.
Yeah, I'm like, I love me a good drama. I love books that have me gasping out loud, you know, so that people are like, what's happening? What happened? Yes, I love that. That's really good storytelling. Nolizwe, who are your faves for now? Currently?
So I'm going to cite two writers whose books I've read or reread recently. The first is Spiwe Gloria Ndlovu. She's a Zimbabwean author. She's an Ndebele author. I'm Ndebele, so I'm constantly looking for works by other Ndebele writers. And what I loved about her book, The Theory of Man, is A History of Man. The History of Man is that, she's writing about this character. The protagonist is nothing like anyone I would ever hang out with. It's this old white man and he's from Rhodesia. He starts out in Rhodesia. And I remember just thinking, why is he the protagonist? Like, how dare you? Why is it not, Ndebele young somebody, But then I really got into the story because it was a masterclass in how to write a character, right? It's like, you don't need to look like this person or whatever, but the fact that she was able to embody this person, this being in such a way that he was such an authentic character. And I got into it. I was just like, man, I need to learn how to do this. And then in addition to that, the book itself has quite a lot of history in it. There's history about Zimbabwe, about Bulawayo, all sorts of things that, made me feel a personal connection to the story, to the places, to the people. And so, so I loved that book. And then another writer that I absolutely love is Chipelo Oparanta, who wrote Under the Odala Trees. And I think I first read this book, it might have been 3 years ago. And I don't know, I just, again, it's the connection to the characters that I felt that really, I was so drawn into their stories. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but the fact that you can almost, you feel everything that at least I did, that the protagonist was feeling, what she's experiencing, this sense of alienation with herself, with the people around her. And then there's this coming to herself that happens throughout the book. And, wow. It was a powerful experience for me. So that's a book that I'm trying to reread. And I think I mispronounced her name. I think it's Chinelo, not Chipelo, Chinelo Oparanta. But yeah, so those for now.
Well, thank you, ladies, for giving us names that are not so commonly known. You didn't go for some of the heavy hitters that people usually come out with when they come with African female authors. But I totally resonate with what you're saying. Until we started with the book club, I didn't realize that there were more than 10 or 15 women writing amazing works and writing such diverse content. So totally amazing. Love those. Now, in terms of what the future for Bhala, how are we keeping this vision sustainable? How are we intending to still be here 5 years from now?
Okay. I could take a stab at that. I think Bhala is very much it's a community. It's a community of writers and for writers. And, we've gotten to know our network. It's a modest sized community, but it's still so vibrant, and it's exciting just to see what writing journeys people are on, right? So I think what we would like to do is just to diversify the content that we offer, but also the tactics we use to engage with people and, just meet people where they are, right? So I mentioned that we have master classes, which are, almost expert sessions, but then we also have Instagram lives most Wednesdays, and that's just a less formal conversation with anyone who wants to talk about their writing journey. You don't need to have published anything. Maybe you have a few articles on your blog. And so thinking about, what are the many ways that we can get people to feel more confident talking about their writing, sharing the struggles and the successes in their writing journeys. So I think one way that we hope to keep the vision sustainable is to keep passing that microphone around. We want to leverage the connections. We want to decenter ourselves. I mean, we're just people who came together and we're like, oh, writing, let's do it, but it really should be, we hope it's a community that grows and is self-sustaining, and just, there's like a snowball effect. You bring in more writers, you're talking, you're sharing and collaborating amongst each other, and the world really is our oyster. So
definitely. And I've attended a few of your master classes, which are really quite unique and really give food for thought. And the one most memorable to me was writing as resistance, and you had quite a cool panel there. And very interesting to see how many people actually are so interested in writing, and then also the range of the different books that you've covered and featured and launched off of the platform or reviewed on the platform is also very interesting, because you've had nonfiction, you've had biographical stuff, then you've had really literary things as well. So I think just broadening our view that women should really be expressing, and actually writers, African writers should really just be expressing themselves in all genres, all formats. Anywhere where we can communicate, because the point is expressing ourselves, isn't it? Right. So very, very powerful there. So who's been impacted the most by the work that you do, in your opinion? Okay. And have you been pleasantly or negatively surprised by some of the feedback you get from the things that you've been doing? Because you're right, the platform has evolved, but it's grown in a really nice way. It's grown in a progressive way. It's been consistent. You're digging deeper, and it's really intentional. What are some of the aspects of feedback where you were like, oh, I didn't know that? And that was like, and which ones were good and which ones were bad?
So I'd say the people that have been impacted the most by our work, at least from what we've seen, are part-time writers who need to be reminded that their stories matter. I think we've seen like a little spike in people who don't write for a living, but have kind of forgotten the song of their heart and the way their pen is poised. And we've just found that those people have been impacted by what we do and have been encouraged to write again, to pick up their pen again and remember what it is why they started writing and why they love to write. I'd also say people that have writer's block as well have benefited a lot. So we've had a few people kind of come in and have not been writing for a long time, who are like paid to write and maybe are having a little bit of writer's block. They come into this community and they meet like-minded people. They meet people who also have writer's block or who aren't having writer's block and are actually bomb. And then they're like, actually, I like this energy. I'm going to keep writing. So people with writer's block kind of come into the community and I think are encouraged to pick up their pens again as well. And I'd also say first-time authors, because we do book launches as well. So we do master classes, but we also do book launches. And typically our book launches are for people who have are releasing their first book and are trying to get known. And so we provide them a platform or a small engaged community that will read their book, that will engage with their work intentionally and not kind of like just give a Facebook thumbs up because for some we've been pleasantly surprised actually by how engaged the community is when we do offer something up, when there is a masterclass, when there is a book launch. We've been so pleasantly surprised by how engaged a small group of people who enjoy writing can be. We've also been pleasantly surprised by people who keep coming back. Like, oh, we're doing something good. So it's been so nice to see people come back. I think we always thought we would see the exact same people coming back in every single season. And what's been surprising is that people have come back, but in the seasons that work for them. So that's been surprising, and we've kind of had to recap and not take that personally at all, but realize that writing is almost like a seasonal thing, and people it's part of someone's being. And so we see different people coming back at different cadences and in different seasons. So we've kind of adjusted to that. So our audience is always changing a little. And so we pivot according to who our audience is and what they're into. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
That's pretty cool. So you're making a home that people want to come back to, because I think if people move in and out so fluidly, there's a feeling that, okay, this place is safe. I'm going to be able to go back there when I need it. Just some comments that have come in from YouTube and Facebook. So we've got Fungai Anthony Socks also wanted to share who his favorite African female author is, and that's Tsitsi Dangaremka. Takes the trophy for me. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've all had the nervous conditions moment. And then Sappy Bachi, wonderful energy tonight. Thank you, Sappy. Thank you for joining us. Like that IG live platform. Yes, we do too. We love it. And then I missed the beginning. How long have you been on this journey? Since 2020, Sappy Bachi. Can you imagine these ladies and their partner, Melissa, who could not be with us tonight? The three of these ladies launched and started this platform in 2020. And have been going strong. So well done to them, and well done for growing such an engaged community. Any of you who've got questions, we're heading out to the last 15 minutes of the show. So this is really your last chance to ask your questions live. So just throw them in the comments and we'll attend to them as they come up. So quick look at African female authors in the publishing industry. So there's two things I'm always interested in when I have guests on the book club, and which is the stereotype or the myth around African female authorship being very dark, dreary. It's the same story. It's the same story of oppression, usually by a man, sometimes by a man and a white person. There's beating involved, there's downtroddenness, and it's the same story everywhere. But as we've read and we've started unearthing and surfacing some of the new voices, women are actually talking about a lot of things. So what's your take on some of these issues around mainstreaming African female authors and boxing them into one genre, one story, and also just the dynamics, the gender equality dynamics in terms of African publishing? Or the publishing industry for African female authors?
That's such a great question, because I'm of two minds about this. So on the one hand, I think there is a sense that, people are writing experiences that are true for them or for people around them or for their societies, right? So there's a sense that, okay, well, yeah, gender-based violence, that is a thing. We're writing about it. Racial or, racism, discrimination across any number of isms is a real thing. So people are writing about that. So I think on the one hand, it's like, okay, well, if these are their stories, those are their stories. On the other hand, I think the fact that we have a perception that, okay, it's the same kind of story all the time, it's almost an indictment of the publishing world, because then it's almost as if, we're saying certain narratives will always be guaranteed to be published or to be shared. If someone is coming to me and they're saying, if you want your book to sell, if you want to reach audiences X, Y, and Z, then this is the kind of story you need to tell. So we are, in a sense, pigeonholing women who want to write other stories. I think, there are women who are writing, lighter fare, and it's almost as if people might look at that and be like, wait, but an African woman, is that really the kind of story that we want to tell about African women? It's like, well, yeah, there's no, don't let the stereotype prevail. Let people write their stories as they are, even if I'm writing about the most random thing, even if I am writing a children's book where, there isn't some big moral lesson. It's just a child living their life. Those kinds of stories should also get some airtime. They should also be published and put out there. So I think, it's a two-part answer for me.
Yeah. Nomsa, what's your take?
I mean, agreed. I think even building off of what Nolizwe said, it's sometimes, we shoot ourselves in the foot, because I mean, I liken it to the Oscars. What are Black women being awarded for at the Oscars? It's the slave movies. And so now it's the same. What are Black women being awarded for in the world? It's these hard, difficult stories where there must be something, I don't know, there must be rape, there must be difficulty. And so there's just this disconnect where there's not space for us to tell the soft stories. That nobody wants to hear them, because they want the ones that are dramatic and that cry and talk struggle. And then we get the perception that we only write dreary stories. Meanwhile, Bolu Babalola is writing about love in color. It's all these short stories that are just soft, and they're all about Black love. No heartbreak whatsoever. So good. No one wants to talk about it. Oyikan Braithwaite is writing My Sister, the Serial Killer. And of course, it is about a serial killer, but it's so funny. It's absolutely hilarious. And so the stories are being written. Black women are writing stories that are not under this guise of dreary. And I think as Nolizwe said, we do have discrimination, and it is our story. And I think there's also work to be done to be like, this is our story, read it, get over it. We're going to write about it because this is our story. We can't always just read about the nice stories. But we also need to also break past this need to be deep every single time. Not every day deep. We can also be funny and silly. We can also write light stories, and we can also they can be nothing deeper to it than just it's just a kid in the playground. And we did actually interview someone on Bhala who wrote a children's book, and she literally said it was just a story about a child who was going to the playground and having the time of their life. It wasn't about their hair or how they should be proud of their skin or all of that stuff. And that stuff's good. But the disadvantage sometimes of being a Black woman is that we have to always be deep to be taken seriously, when sometimes when everyone else has the privilege of being able to be funny and silly, and people will still take them seriously. So I hopefully with what we're doing with Bhala, we start to break past some of those molds and amplify some of the voices that are doing something different.
Well, I think what's great about Bhala is that it's caught on to this movement that I'm seeing in terms of the current generation, where we are taking back the narrative, and we are saying there's more to us than what breaks through into the mainstream. I guess it's also the era we are living in. I think there's an element in which social media and doing things even like this live stream kind of democratize and level the playing field a little bit, because the internet it kind of treats us all the same. You kind of have to do the same hard graft to be known, here. And so I think it's really amazing. And I think what's freeing about a story where a child can play in the playground is it is affording our little brown boys and girls the ability to just see themselves as human, not their gender, just as human. And I think that's what we sometimes miss, is that the labels and all the isms actually are about how we have dehumanized each other according to our differences. But when we actually realize and, we understand that we're human, we have so much grace and we have so much, we are so benevolent, we are so magnanimous when we're like, but, that's just the human experience, that's the human condition. And I think giving that back to each other by helping us to see each other not clothed in our struggle, not clothed in the pain, not clothed in the things that we don't have, actually helps to kind of equalize that. So really powerful reflections there, Nomsa and Nolizwe. So we're coming up to the last 5 minutes of the show, and I just want to know, we're heading into Q4, it's 2021, year 2, COVID is still here. It hasn't gone away. So we're all kind of dealing with that. Kind of like, okay, it's still the pandemic, we're all saying to each other. And here we are with Bhala. It's year 2, we're going into year 3. What are you looking most forward to as we close out 2021? And what have you got planned for 2022?
Okay. So actually, we're wrapping one. We officially launched in October 2020. And so, there's this internal excitement for crossing that 1 year mark. And amongst the things that we want to do is to release an anthology. So we have people who write stories every week when we have our writing sessions. And actually, we had plans to release it much earlier, but, life happened. And so what we want to do is just to collect more of these stories and actually publish them, because, we have such talent amongst us. And really, people come and they're writing their sci-fi stories, or they're writing the most hilarious wedding stories. Or, Nomsa even wrote a poem for her niece. And I'm just like, this needs to be out in the world. So the anthology is one thing that we hope to release before the year ends. We also will be launching some workshops for just writing their skills focused workshops. So whether it's for professional writing, or if it's, let's say, for example, writing for people who are in the marketing field. And then we also, I should say, we have a masterclass next week with someone who's a huge inspiration to us. She's a big name in the history of publishing in Zimbabwe. So we are looking forward to welcoming Mrs. Barbara Nkala in a conversation. And then, looking ahead to 2022, Nomsa, why don't you take that one?
I guess in 2022, we're also trying to walk the talk that we've been talking about. And so Bhala is supposed to bridge this gap between writing skills and monetization. And so we want to start bridging our own gap between our own writing skills and monetization, income generation. And so we're looking at collaborations with different people. growing our network, passing on the mic to different people, and running workshops that people can actually opt into and pay for. And then also going into some merchandise. I mean, what's a writer without some cool merchandise? Like, come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you really write if you don't have a cool notebook? So so those are the kinds of things we're also looking to diversify into, and try put our money where our mouth is, as kind of serve as an example in that light as well.
Yeah, well, I am so excited to hear about all of that, and that just means that you're going to have to come back, especially when the anthology is done. You're going to have to come back and take us through that with maybe some of the writers from that anthology. So, you can schedule us in your launch calendar for that, because we definitely want to amplify that and what has come from that. And we will be watching, and we will be supporting, and we will be sharing what it is that you have to share to the greater writing community in the region, because we're all in it together. And I don't think any of us have actually scratched the surface on the potential that, publishing, creative content, and all of that has for us, especially in the era we are living in. So very excited to hear about those plans, and very excited to hear about 2022. Wishing you both all the best with that, and definitely you will have to come back, ladies. Then maybe we can get Melissa to also, we know that somewhere out there in the internet ether you're watching. Our message to you is we look forward to you coming back, especially when the anthology is ready, and you can take us through that as well, together with Nomsa and Nolizwe. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us this evening. And thank you to everybody who joined us on Facebook and YouTube. Chedza Wodzi, there's definitely more to us as women of color apart from pain, truth, Nomsa, and definitely agree with that. And not everyday deepaha, definitely also. So thank you, all of you who joined us and who followed along in the conversation. And those of you who will be watching after it has gone live, still please put your comments in the comment box. We still want to know. We will respond to you. And we will be back here as per usual next week, Wednesday, with another edition of the book club to close out September. So be with us here at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube with yet another fascinating African female author or book lover. And we will be talking the talk here. So good night, ladies. And good night, Nomsa and Nolizwe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Selina. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.
All right. Night-night. Bye.